Alabama Renaissance Faire channel. Today we have a returning guest, William Freeman. Stay tuned and we're going to talk about being a volunteer on the roundtable. See you in a couple of seconds. Everybody, this is Will. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm so glad I could come.
Today we're going to discuss volunteering on the roundtable.
Yes, and I'll go ahead and start off by telling everyone I was a volunteer. I started in 1990, so I've been with the fair a long time. I know when you guys had Darlene on, she joined like 1988. And so I was a couple of years, 2 or 3 years after that, or 2 years actually. And some people may want to know this, and because I think it's valuable information, and that is, there could be someone who's watching these videos, and maybe they've been to the fair like dozens, tons of times, they love it, or maybe you've only been a handful of times. But you're like, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, why aren't you a volunteer? You love the fair, and you've either came a few times or a lot of times, why aren't you a volunteer? And somebody may think, well, I didn't know I could. And then if you say, well, yes, you can, well, I don't know how. And I know someone like that who is one of our volunteers now. I met him through community theater because I'm an actor, he's an actor, and he used to show up at all our events. He'd show up at our feast dinner, he'd show up at the fair, he would show up at the Christmas parade that we march in, and one day, it's like my brain suddenly turned on, and I just went up to him, I said, why aren't you a volunteer? Why aren't you helping us behind the scenes? And he was like, I didn't know I could. And I said, well, we're open to anybody. They take me. If they take me, they'll take anybody. So that's they let me come in.
That's right.
And then he was like, well, I didn't know, and I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, you just tell me that you want to do it, and I'll fill you in. And then he's like, well, what do I do? And if you're out there and you're thinking somewhere along those lines, I want you to know right now that being a volunteer with the Alabama Renaissance Faire is as easy as saying, I want to do it. Because one of the taglines I developed years ago, if you're breathing, we'll take you. Now, we're not like wanting serial killers or murderers or anything like that, but if you love the time period, that's the key right there. You got to love our time period.
Would you take Mercenaries?
Oh, yeah.
Knights. Yeah,
we'll take them all, baby.
Okay.
Shoot. It's all about that. See, the fact that you mentioned Knights and Mercenaries, which fall within our time frame, and if you have watched a previous episode with Darlene, then Darlene the Learning, where she spoke about how we got started and things about us as a roundtable, you know our time frame, and they fall in it. And if that's you, that's great. So you may be thinking, okay, this sounds interesting. What do I do? Well, I think she mentioned that we do meet at lunchtime once a month on the third Thursday, and we as volunteers discuss and plan the coming year for the feast and the fair and all the other things. Now, when I started, I'll go ahead and tell you, I didn't have a job. So a lot of people say, okay, well, so I'm a volunteer. What do I do? Maybe you're not. Maybe you don't do theater, and you say, well, but I'm not really a musician, and I don't really know anything about the time period. I love it, but I don't know a lot about it. See, that was me. When I started, I had only done one play in high school. Though I fell in love with theater after that one time. I didn't really do theater, so I was technically, I don't know if I'd call myself a true blue actor yet, because I'm on one show. I played music by ear, but I couldn't play a musical instrument, as far as something medieval Renaissance that I could do at the fair. And I didn't, so what did I do? I came to meetings, and I was just happy to be a roundtable member. I was like, I'm on the roundtable. I helped plan the fair. And I pieced together a costume from Bible robes from church and some cheap jewelry from yard sales, and had a costume that I thought, this is okay, this is a good first try. But what did I do at the fair? I just walked around and didn't know what I was doing. And so if that's you, that's okay. Because as a volunteer, you don't have to know what you're going to do. It's all about, I just want to see the fair continue another year.
Right, you could volunteer to show people where to go during
the fair.
Where's this booth, that booth, where's water?
Sure. When I started, I knew nothing. I didn't know history. I didn't know anything. I was just glad to be considered a volunteer. Now the bulk, I would say, of what we do that we need help on is we need, people who are good at like moving, lifting, hauling, toting, because at the feast dinner we have to put the Colosseum together. We come into this big giant room that's got a basketball court on it and bleachers and a stage, and we have to turn that into a medieval feast hall, and we have a day and a half to do it.
He's making it lighter though. Each
Yeah.
year he's learning
Right.
ways to make everything super light so that
Yeah,
the lifting is getting lighter and lighter every year.
Yeah, our volunteer, which is Don Green, he's the master at stuff like this and has got it down to a science. And then it falls to us though, we need to get the tables arranged, and we have to put lights out and put tablecloths up. And we do have, we do screen the bleachers off with some curtains, and then we have he's created these castle towers out of canvas and some metal that we put up front to make it look, like you're coming into a castle. But all these things require manpower.
Right, beautiful tapestries
Yeah.
to help with the atmosphere.
And they have to hang, and all the decorating, and then with the fair, it's a similar thing. We have backdrops to stages that we have to put up, and we have our own booth to put up, and there's all these things that it's just, you gotta be physically able and active to do some things, and we need a lot of that. So that's big. So if you're able to move and tote and hammer and screw and whatever else, then yeah, that's a good first start. Because when I joined, I couldn't do anything. I didn't have a job, but that's what I did. I said, well, I can hold this up while you put it in place. I can pin this flag to this piece of cloth, canvas, or whatever. I can decorate this table. I can move this here. I can hold that. I can tote this. And then during the event, like during the fair itself, if you can just volunteer in our information booth, where we sell all of our posters and t-shirts and mugs and things like that. If you can just be there, sometimes you don't have to stay, whether you stay 30 minutes or you stay all day, just to say I'm here and I'm gonna, mingle with the public by saying hello, thank you for coming to the fair, can I help you, sort of answering questions about where, because we have maps and we have entertainment schedules. That's just little things that you don't have to know. Now, what happens is if you say I want to be a volunteer, and you do, then eventually you'll get your niche will rise up. Because when I was a volunteer for probably 5-6 years, and that's all I did. I came to meetings, but I didn't really say a lot, because I was just kind of taking it all in, because I don't know that I have any kind of expertise in anything, and I didn't have a job at the fair. I helped set up, I helped take down, same for the feast. And I know the first few years of the feast, I actually bought a ticket. And I ate. And a lot of our volunteers, they set up the feast and they also buy tickets, and I did too. And it wasn't until, 5 or 6 years in that, whoa, boom, the job that I have now opened up, which is at the fair, I am the herald to the king and the queen. And because back in the history, back in real medieval times, if you needed something important that had to be said, and the king's like, make this announcement, well, that would use the herald to do it, and that's what I do. We have a PA system that we use, because yes, we do know, for those of you that are shaking your head, we do know that yes, PA systems are not medieval Renaissance, but we don't get technical, because a lot of things you find at a Renaissance fair may not fit medieval Renaissance, if depending on how technical you want to go. And so because you get some things like that, we feel like you need to have it, because we want people to be able to hear, because we have schedules that we print out, and you give somebody a schedule, and they say, okay, this is what's happening when, but let's be honest, especially if you're in a costume like mine, my costume doesn't have pockets. I get that schedule, and if I didn't have a place to keep it, it's lost, it's gone. I'm not, and most folks that do have pockets, they're going to stick it in their purse, or they're going to stick it in their pocket or their wallet, and they're going to forget about it, and they're still going to well, when is this happening? Or what's happening at 12 o'clock? Well,
Exactly.
they got a schedule, but are they going to look? No. So that's when I fall into the picture, and I announce over the PA system what's happening when. Now, some people have said larger Renaissance fairs don't have them. So why do we have it? Well, larger Renaissance fairs are covering acres, like 80, 90 acres for the big giant fairs that you see like in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Atlanta and Michigan. All the big ones cover so many acres that there's, having a PA system just wouldn't be, it wouldn't cover. But since we're in a small city park, we can pretty much plant speakers to where it covers most of the area that we need. And I minimize it.
It works.
Yeah, and I minimize the announcing. But that is to where we don't want to, I know that certain entertainers, like especially musicians, they are not happy if their music's interrupted by my voice. And I don't know that I would be happy if my voice interrupted me. So yeah, I get it, but we minimize it. But all that to say, that job was done by another person.
Give us a quick example of what you do when you
Yeah,
announce.
sure. Well, it's very simple. I do every hour, top of the hour. So I say right now I've got almost 20 to 4. So at 15 to 4, if I was really doing it, I would look at my wrist sundial. It's not a watch because they didn't have watches; they had sundials. And I would go 15 to 4, and I would say, "Oh yay, lords and ladies, at 4 p.m. on your wrist sundial." And then I would announce the entertainment. Now here's a funny tidbit, at least it is to me. I have people come up to me all the time, and they don't have a clue who I am. But the minute I speak, the first thing you're that guy at the Renaissance Fair.
Yep.
Because they recognize my voice. They don't know anything about me, but they know my voice, because a lot of times, I use a wireless mic, so I can pretty much be anywhere in the park when I do my announcing. And they say they may not have ever seen me in person, but they know my voice. And I've had people come to tell me that that's one of their favorite things. It's like, I know I'm at the fair when I hear your voice.
Exactly.
And I'm like, look, it's a group effort here. It's like, well, we understand, but other festivals don't have it, and they just like the way that I do my announcing. But that just fell into my lap. It's not like it was just the person who did my job moved out of the Shoals. He moved away from the Shoals area, and so the round table was like, okay, we need someone that can do the announcing. And our president, Billy Warren, was like, hey, what about you? And he was, you have a big mouth. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And so there we go. And now at the feast dinner, the same thing happened. We had a lady who actually did my job. Now at the feast, I'm what they call the hall steward, surveyor of ceremonies, sort of the actual realistic medieval Renaissance terms. And that's just basically, if you want to boil it down, I know any purist like my brother Lee, who did his book Medieval Speak, will probably cringe. But I'm going to say, for all you non-technical people, my feast job is medieval MC. Okay, and I know it's that, if you're into history, you're probably like wanting to stab yourself in the heart. No, but really that's what it is, medieval MC. And that job too fell into my lap, because the person who was doing it was no longer able to do it, and they needed someone to do it. And here again, the round table was like, hey, what about you? And I was like, oh, well, sure. And because I take those roles, I treat it just like I do theater. And maybe you've seen my other episode I did where we talked about character creation. What I do, I put on a persona, and it's really just an exaggerated, people say, well, no, that's probably really you.
I was Ed.
But I do sort of exaggerate, I put on an exaggerated persona of myself. And because I find when you're doing character creation, that's the best way for kind of like, I don't know where to start. Just take who you are and amp it up a lot. And then that's kind of what I did. I just don a British accent, and then I am me turned up. And really, that's what I do. And as a volunteer, that's one one of the things that I do. Also, I think Darlene spoke about this in her video about how we became a group and a fair. We do go to schools, we do go to community groups and libraries, and we do interactive demonstrations, and that's something that also kind of fell into my lap. So all of these things that we've been talking about as a volunteer, the way you go about doing it is you just show up. Now we meet, like I say, from January to August, we meet one time a month on the third Thursday at lunch for 1 hour in the Florence City Auditorium, which is on Pine Street. And you say, well, I don't live anywhere near. Well, that's okay, because we do have volunteers who don't even live in the Shoals area. I know we have some that live in Madison or Huntsville, and we've had people, and Darlene, she now lives in Tuscaloosa. But because her and her husband moved when he is the library director for Tuscaloosa and their entire libraries, and she moved. But she loves the fair so much, she's like, I'm willing to commit. And now some of you may say, well, that's a long drive and I can't afford the gas and all that. That's why we have email, because that's a perfect way if you're like, I can't make meetings, either too far away or I work. A lot of people, a general thing that people have told me over the years is, well, I work. I can't make meetings. Well, we started back in 1987. We did lunch, and because at that time, the volunteers that we had, the majority were able to make their lunch hour fit. And then and we kept that. So if you can't make it, you sign up, and we'll give you an email. You'll be on our email list, and you'll get minutes of every meeting, so you'll see what's going on. And then you can also, if you well, I have this great idea, well, just email it to the group, and then it can be discussed. And then you've also got Facebook, and so there's lots of ways that you can reach out to us if you're not able to make meetings. But
YouTube.
Yeah, and perfect.
So you leave the questions below, and we will answer them.
Yeah, and I will say this about you, as you were a part of the roundtable for a while, and it wasn't until recently that it was just like the light bulb went off. Oh yeah, why don't we do YouTube? And then we were we had a Facebook for a long time, and it wasn't until the last year or two that we finally, with some help from a very good volunteer, Cherie, who finally said, look, let me show you how to properly use it. And then she needed a niche and was like, well, I'm doing, I'm just kind of here. Well, now she's helping with YouTube, and she had helped.
She's the director. She's behind the camera right
now. Yeah, so there you go. It's a matter of, you can be, like I said, 5-6 years. I did nothing. I worked at the event, set up, takedown. And so you don't let that intimidate you, saying, well, I came to a meeting and everybody's seemed like they got jobs. And no, we'll adopt you, and then we'll figure out together what you're good at and what you can do, and we'll do that. And then in the next segment, what I want to talk about is to go into more detail with the feast and the fair about what goes on. So give us some hands-on. I did a little bit about that. We want to get specifics, like, okay, I'm a volunteer now. What can I do? And then we'll go into some of the details that we do as volunteers to help with that.
Well, stick around for part 2, and thank you guys for joining in. Please don't forget, leave questions. We'll answer them back as quick as possible, and ring the bell, and don't forget to sign up. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.